Good morning, everyone,
Morning. Morning.
and welcome to the premiere.
Maybe just put it towards you a little bit.
Push it more.
Just push this by you.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the premiere meeting of the Building and Grounds Committee. Pretty exciting to have this. We have a lot of things going on. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with a roll call.
Ms. Parker,
Present.
Mr. Hunter, Mr. Hess,
Present.
Mr. Tholen, Mr. Seroy, Mr. Dennell,
Present.
Mr. Smith,
Present.
Ms. Armour Earps, Mr. Ashcraft,
Present.
Ms. Monday, Mr. Scanlon, Mr. Wheeler, Mr. Alexander Hildebrand.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, calling for some public comment. Any public comments this morning? One more time, any public comments? Okay, we're going to move on to approval of minutes, which we have none yet. Next month we will have some minutes to approve. And we're going to move over to committee project updates and overview. We have a wonderful PowerPoint presentation this morning for you to get an idea of where the county is heading with the buildings, the courthouse, the jail, different projects that we have going on. It's going to be a very busy committee, and we want to share the plans with you this morning. And I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to start the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay, so this is the PowerPoint that Wes and Andy have put together of everything that's going on.
I got it. Yep.
You've got it from there? Okay, good.
So some new faces in the room. My name's Wes Andrews. I'm the maintenance director here for the county. In May of this year will be my 5-year anniversary. Doesn't seem like I've been here quite that long, but indeed I have. The buildings under my jurisdiction are the courthouse, 189 and associated lots, which is where we are right now. The old VAC building, which is immediately north of here on Schuyler. The Regional Office of Education. I don't have a whole lot to do with that, but we do have responsibilities out there that are really outside of my department. Excuse me. They have questions from time to time, and I try to help them out as much as I can with any questions or issues that they may have at their facility. The Bukowski Public Safety Center, which is south of town. The old and new jail. So the old jail would be on Merchant right over here. The new jail is Jerome Combs, again, which is south of town and attached to the Public Safety Center. The coroner's morgue, the Highway Department properties, much like the Office of Education. I don't do much with the Highway Department, but if they do have issues or questions, we will assist them. Animal control and the annex building, which is next to the old jail on Merchant in Kankakee. The annex houses probation and the public defender. My staff, we have 5 custodians on staff. We have 6 mechanics. We have 1 courier. 2023 budget will be $993,000. And the reporting structure for myself is reporting duties to the chairman and the sheriff, both. Monthly updates, which we're going to have one here in a few minutes, but what my monthly updates will entail is basically a rundown of 189, the courthouse, the annex, the old jail, Jerome Combs, public safety, and the morgue. So anything and everything that's going on in those buildings, I try to give everyone as much information as possible what's going on in each of those facilities. So animal control, some of you may know there's a new Bourbonnais location that's in the works. I don't have a whole lot to do with that right now. I mean, I help them out with maintenance related issues. A lot of the new building design and things of that nature are being handled by Chairman Wheeler and Carrie Laird, who's the animal control director. But as you can see, the building and land sale have been completed. The zoning and bond is completed as well. They're working on final designs right now. Andy, anything else you want to add on animal control?
Not right yet. We just can't wait to hit the ground running, and we still help out with the current location. You may mention that. you help out
Yeah.
because it's falling apart daily.
Yeah, it's in bad shape. We do get a lot of requests for miscellaneous repairs, and then obviously there's, for the new facility, I think it's important to mention that no local property taxes were used to pay for the project, so that's worth noting.
And if you haven't been to the animal control building over on Grinnell Road, it really it will shock you. There is such a need to provide not only the staff but the animals with the structure that's a little bit more safe for them.
So that's a photo, or a rendering rather, of the new facility. Obviously, if you've been by there, that's on Mooney Drive in Bourbonnais. Or is that Bradley?
Bourbonnais.
Bourbonnais. So you can get a feel for the addition that's going to be put on for the garage, which is going to be to the just left of the front building, and then in the back you're going to have runs and play areas, recreation areas for the animals there at the animal control. But we will do all the maintenance on the grounds. So we started cutting the grass and taking care of the grounds back this summer when the building was purchased, and we'll continue to do that moving forward.
Could I just add on a few things about the building itself? It's going to be wonderful because right now we have animal on top of animal, and it's in a very crowded environment. What we are going to design then will be an area for healthy cats and separate the sick cats from the healthy cats, and as well as the dogs will be the healthy dogs, and then a place to treat the sick dogs. The neat thing about that, at the back where you see the playgrounds, that there's going to be like guillotine doors that's going to raise, and the dogs can just run out there right into the play yard and do some romping around and get some really good exercise. Right now, there's really no place for them to get some healthy exercise, and the bigger dogs really need that. And as well as someone who wants to adopt a dog, they can take the dog out to the playground and kind of see if it's going to fit with their family or not. But there's going to be a place for the employees to actually have lunch and whatever, but there's not going to be where they're taking care of dead cats or decapitating the cats to send them to the lab or whatever, which is not a safe environment for the employees. But it's going to be designed, it's going to be state of the art, it's going to be wonderful at no taxpayer dollar. This is something that is needed. Not only is the staff happy that it's coming, but Animal Welfare Committee is over the moon because of this building right now. So I just wanted to throw that in there of the safety of animals and staff both.
Okay, courthouse basement. Obviously, work is underway. We're estimating completion sometime in March. There are some lead time issues on the doors, so I discussed this with the chairman the other day. We should be pretty well wrapped in March, but any office that's getting a new door, those won't be in until May. We've looked at other vendors. We're looking at about anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 in additional expense to go with a different vendor to get the doors here in time for March. So that's something that I don't think it's money well spent, especially with a lot of the other issues that we've uncovered, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So some highlights of the project: expansion of jury assembly is probably the most notable. If anybody's ever served on a jury, you know how cramped it is in the basement. So the expansion is going to be significant. There will be areas to charge cell phones, to charge laptops. There will be cell phone lockers. There will be laptop lockers. It'll be very nice and comfortable for any jurors once we get the project completed. We're creating a secure holding room for any of the inmates in the courthouse for their safety and obviously for the safety of the public as well. The cafeteria is expanding. We're creating office areas for the circuit clerk. There's going to be 14 workstations in that area. Also a creation of a secure access point in the basement. So right now, everyone, with the exception of any handicapped individuals that would be using the basement ramp, enter through the front door. So that's jurors, that's everybody goes through the front door. After the completion of the project, you'll have the jurors now entering through the basement access, and then they'll go through the security checkpoint, and then they can go right into the jury assembly area. So that'll alleviate some of the congestion in the mornings at the front door. HVAC upgrades will be considerable. There's been, we're gonna have to purchase a few different furnaces. The ones we had were not adequate. And then we're also adding several bathrooms in the basement as well. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So that's a floor plan. It's going to be hard to really, see a whole lot on this, but in the, I would call it the top right-hand corner, you can see those are a bunch of workstations that's going to be used by the circuit clerk. Immediately below that is going to be the cafeteria area. You can see the tables, kind of the circles listed there on the drawing, and then going all the way over to the left side, the top left would be jury assembly. So jury assembly will flow from the top left of the drawing down, underneath that, and then it's also going to flow to the right as well. So jury assembly is almost going to not quite double, but nearly double in size.
Nice.
So that'll be a very large benefit.
And that will that eliminate then going to KFC then to check in? That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So next slide, please. So I've got some photos here. So some of them are just to kind of give you an idea of the status of the project. So you can see the new hallway that's been constructed there on the left. That's going to go into the circuit clerk's office area, which is on the right. So you can get a feel for it. I mean, this area 3 months ago was literally stocked floor to ceiling with files. Every square inch. I mean, there was little walkways. So just the amount of work that it took by Sandy and my staff to get ready to get to this point was substantial. So you can see the metal framing, you can see the new ductwork that's been put in, you can see the drywall that's been hung. That's just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at right now. That's again in the circuit clerk's office area looking to the north. That's on the left is going to be the security area. You're going to come through that door. Those two double brown doors that you see there still need to come out, but that'll be the new security area when you come in. The picture on the right is the expanded cafeteria area. In the back of the cafeteria there where you see that light hanging, that was our evidence storage. So all of that has been moved as well, all the framing removed. So the cafeteria will, not quite, but the cafeteria will almost nearly double in size. So here's a lot of the work that we've been working on right now. So we had to do a substantial amount of saw cutting in the floor to put in the bathrooms. So the new bathroom that you see there is going to be just off of jury assembly. And then if you see that picture on the right, that is the saw cutting that's been done, and that goes all the way over to the cafeteria. So if anybody's familiar with the basement, that goes all the way to the cafeteria, and then the elevator is down there on the right. When you go into the basement. So that is probably, I would guess, 60 to 70 feet of saw cutting that had to happen to get to make that run. And the issue was the cafeteria kitchenette was not plumbed correctly. So there were some things that we uncovered, and to get it plumbed correctly, we had to cut that trench all the way over there to put in the plumbing correctly.
Wow.
Which was a surprise. Yes, Amanda?
What precautions were made for water?
For if there's flooding?
For flooding, well,
Is there anything in the basement?
there's a drain outside that's being upgraded, as well as a sump pump. So at the basement door.
Okay.
How did you know it floods?
Oh.
Yes.
Well, I'm just wondering what we did on the outside of the building, if there was anything that needed to be done. Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times that drain just gets covered too. I mean, the drain will handle the water, but sometimes, especially in the fall, if you've got leaves, if you've got anything that just covers that drain slightly, then it creates issues for us inside.
Anybody else have a question to ask Wes up to this point of the courthouse? Okay, we'll move on then.
So speaking of surprises, this was a surprise. I was not aware of this. 1880 maybe, 1850, I'm not sure. There was a old courthouse that sat at this location. And when they were removing the concrete after the saw cut, you can see in the middle picture, you see where the X, that orange X is in the trench right there. That's the old courthouse. And what they did was, when the old courthouse, I guess, burnt down, they tore it down, but they left the footings for the old courthouse and just poured the concrete for the basement on top of the old footings. So what we have now is, like I told you, we're going to be running sanitary sewer from the cafeteria, and that sanitary sewer has got to go through that middle photo with the X on that footing. That's probably 3 feet wide, pretty substantial footing, but nowhere near as large as the picture on the right. So that is solid concrete, probably 4 foot, probably 5 foot wide. And we have to get through that concrete. That's where you see all the orange markings.
Wow.
So we need to saw cut that, get through that, and go to the next slide there, Kelly. Oh, I guess not. Go back.
Okay.
Thought I had one more. But going back into that room is where the drain connection is. So we need to get through that concrete, into that room, through another piece that's the same size, and tie into the sanitary sewer. So that was a surprise, something that we uncovered. It's undoubtedly going to add expense to the project. I met with Andy the other day, and we knocked on wood because we did have some overages, but we thought we had probably seen them all. Well, this was something that reared its ugly head yesterday.
Wow.
So any questions on the basement or anything that we've discussed?
Estimated time of completion?
March, and with outdoors till May.
Wow, that's great. Good to hear. Okay.
Next slide. I think this is Andy, right?
Yeah.
Andy, Mr. Wheeler.
So we received a $700,000 grant. I think it was a DOT grant. I believe, well, Ben's here, but I believe it was a DOT grant. Regardless, for a bus barn. Show Bus is basically, that's us. We are rural county transit as Show Bus, and we had the opportunity to acquire and target a location. So we're looking at a location. We found one, we think. We're working with White and Company. Ooh, yeah, there should be an I in there. White and Company, and the developer for a site plan. So what we're looking to do is, do this as a design build turnkey project where all the you have to have triple basins because of oil runoff and things like that if it's an indoor. So we figure it's better and cheaper if we get a turnkey project done, and here's the building, here it's ready to go, rather than bidding out 30 different pieces of this at once. So we're going down that road, but it looks like we'll be able to fit it in that $700,000 envelope. So it'll be no local money, if you will, to have this bus barn here in downtown Kankakee. So it'll be good. It's not a transit place like Metro Bus over here. It's just a place for them to house them and things like that, but it does bring some efficiencies to bear.
Good.
Especially where those two systems link up. People could, in theory, come into downtown and get everywhere else on River Valley Metro and then come back here and go home. So it should be a good addition to the transit system.
Absolutely. Any questions for Mr. Wheeler about the bus barn? Okay, it's going to be a great project. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Okay.
Andy, do you want to do this one, or you want me to?
Go ahead.
So once we get the basement project wrapped, the next order of business is going to be into the circuit clerk's office. If anybody's been in the courthouse, conducting business and had to go into the circuit clerk's area, it's very cramped. They're on top of each other. There's not a whole lot of room in there. So once we get the basement completed and we have the workstations in the basement, we're going to use those workstations, at least temporarily, to house some people in the circuit clerk's office, so then we can move into there and do some renovations in there. And that's going to be mostly furniture, carpet, maybe some paint. Should not be very substantial in cost. Knock on wood, but that's going to be, we've done a lot of other ADA renovations there as well. I guess we'll touch on those briefly. Courtroom 204 had a considerable amount of ADA upgrades in there. The basement ramp had a lot of ADA upgrades, and I feel like we're getting pretty close, and this should be maybe one of the last areas that we have to look at with regard to any kind of ADA concerns at the courthouse. So, anything else, Andy, you want to elaborate on?
You did touch on that, but it is part of the ongoing transition plan that we've already taken care of those date certain things, those things that the Attorney General said you have to have this done by X date.
Right.
The critical things to allow people that are either jurors or they want to serve on the jury, they're defendants or prosecutors. Now we're moving into people that work in the courthouse because the Sandy's office isn't ADA compliant through no fault of hers. It's just that's where the desks are all stacked up and you can't get an assisting device through the aisles there. So we have to address it, and it's not date certain, but right now we have the ability to use ARPA money for infrastructure needs, so the time to address is now, I think. And so we're going to get that cost together, hopefully in Q3 23, and then we build 24. So we'll see how things line up, but that's tentatively what we're looking at.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
So the courthouse lawn project, and Andy, you can help me on this one too if you like. We've lost a lot of trees over the last 5 years since I've been here. If I had to guess, I'd say we've lost 7 or 8 trees at the courthouse, just due to storms and wind. So I had reached out to Chairman Wheeler a while back. He put me in touch with the Historical Society. I've had some preliminary conversations with them as to, what's the plan? What do we want to do? Is there a historical type plan that's out there that we'd kind of like to recreate? Do we want to do something completely different? But just trying to look ahead and, do what's prudent with the, when we're losing these trees, I would think we would want to replace them with something. So that's where we're at right now. I did speak with the Historical Society. They didn't sound like they had a whole lot of input. They talked a little bit with a local landscaper, but I kind of feel like it's back on my plate now, or our plate, as to what we want to do with the courthouse lawn.
Mr. Wheeler?
So it seemed to me that we could consider engaging with a landscape architect on a professional services basis. Pick somebody, put out like a RFQ, request for qualifications for landscape architects, and then pick one of those and have them kind of give us some proposals that would, as it says up there, for the front and the back with deference to the historic layout and then of the property to enhance the property and not. I don't just want to plant a bunch of trees and then it covers up the courthouse.
No.
I don't want to put a bunch of trees out there that are dropping acorns and pine cones and stuff all over the place, the helicopters, to where it's a mess for Wes's people to clean up all the time, So we want to do it right, but also highlight the courthouse rather than just drop a bunch of trees where the other one stood.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this committee would make that recommendation if that's the way you want to go, and we could put it on a future agenda.
Any other comments or questions about the landscaping of the courthouse? Okay.
Would it be a good idea to have something where people could?
Could you get near the
Oh, sorry.
microphone? Yeah.
Would it be a good idea to have something, because we have a lot of events at the courthouse, and I don't know what the concrete site or pavers around a certain area. We do a lot of things for the fallen officers or things like that. Would it be nice to have something paved? Because as a woman, your heel goes into that grass pretty good. But just something to have it where if there's an event, there's concrete or pavers or something. And I haven't been to the courthouse in a long time in regards to something like that, but when we do a plan, would it be wise to have something like that? Or is there already something already?
I mean, it could. I mean, the fire and police memorials are probably our most well-attended events at the courthouse. That's possible. If a landscape designer wanted to add something like that in those areas, I suppose that would make sense. At what cost? You'll learn as you spend time here that cost is always a concern.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but definitely a good point. So the old VAC, that's going to be the building immediately north of this one. We've been using it. Obviously, it's the old VAC for a reason. That's where they were housed before they moved into the 4th floor here in this building, and have since moved on yet again. So we're looking at there's interest from the state's attorney's office to utilize the space. I took them through the space last week. We do have some leaks in that building. You can see I have an older estimate for $40,000 worth of tuck pointing that's needed on the rear of the building. That's where we're getting the water in. I do have another bid that I received that's substantially lower than that. So that's good news. So that's something that I'm working on right now to see if we can get the building watertight, so the SAO can use that space. So working on that right now.
Very good.
Other projects. Andy, you want to talk about what else you got cooking?
Well, yeah, we're looking at some other ARPA projects. At this point right now, I'm in the process of talking to legislators and other folks who can help lobby to get us added to a bill. It's not a bill, it's actually a public act that already exists. Will County did this to start with, but they collect a fee at the courthouse for court infrastructure improvements. Only to be used in conjunction between the county board and the chief judge. Both have to concur on the use of that money, but it's only for court infrastructure, like buildings, courtrooms, the things that we're doing, okay? Will County started this, it's a public act, that's how they built their new courthouse, they collected the fee. But then also, McHenry County and Kendall County have also jumped on that as well. Last legislative session, Kendall got on. We're going to ask to get on it this legislative session so we can start collecting the fee, which becomes an alternate revenue source to where we don't have to use taxpayer money. We can bond against the revenue from those fees and hopefully start to assess how much that would give us to look at those other projects that we've talked about. You know, this community can't afford, and we've been down this road of $190 million courthouse expansion. That's just not going to happen. We're not talking about that, but can we get to a place that we can have a functioning court system where we're going to be adding judges? You know, this last census probably wasn't a decline. It was probably an increase, but we just had a bad count. In 10 years, we're going to have more judges. 10 years after that, they'll probably have another judge. So how are we going to address the next 50 years without asking the taxpayers to do so? Well, the combination of COVID money and a bill like this, we might be able to get something done down there for a lot less than 190 million, a lot less than, I think, 10 million, okay? But I think we can do something that will set the county up for the next 50 years as far as courts. Then we can move on to other stuff. So we're just going to explore that. We're going to kick the tires. If we can get this, it would make it so we could do it more expansively and more long-term. But we may have to, if this doesn't work, you know, if you've noticed, the state doesn't necessarily want to collect money from people who commit crimes anymore. So, you know, I don't know if we're going to be met like Kendall County was last session, where it was, sure, yeah, we'll go ahead and add you to this. I don't know if we'll get that same deference. So we'll see how it goes. But then we also need a capital plan that we have to craft to coordinate with our space needs assessment. So the capital plan refers to our projects, our buildings. What do we see? You know, we've got a needs assessment on how many people work here, what the size of the offices need to be, blah, blah, blah. We went through that process. The next step in that is the capital plan. Then you have something when you're going out for the ask to measure against. So if we want a courthouse, not a courthouse expansion, but maybe off-site courtrooms, maybe something else along those lines, it has to be in a capital plan. So that's where we come in, is do we want to go down that road right now and then develop that capital plan and have something to work against, much like a strategic plan for the next 20 years. So that's there's more to come on that, but right now we're just trying to assess what those opportunities are, what other funding mechanisms do we have beyond the taxpayers here locally.
Well, there's absolutely a need because we need the expansion, and I think you've got some pretty good solutions there. Just have to really define it and put it into a plan for the future.
Yeah, the traffic call is the big call.
Yes.
If you're able to get traffic mitigated somehow, then that relieves a lot of the pressure on the courthouse. It's a different world then.
Yes.
But you can't always, you know, if you got 10 courtrooms and 11 judges, even though we don't have that anymore, we're going to have that again. You know, and that problem, then we'll have 12 judges in 10 courtrooms. We got to start thinking ahead a little
You
bit.
do,
And that's
you
where
do.
capital plan comes in.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That really is, I love that idea and I like the plan. Okay. Okay.
All right, I think that's it. So we'll move on now to what I'll do on a monthly basis. Facility dude report. I'm not the facility dude. That's
he
the
is.
software system that
is.
we use. It's called Facility Dude. So I don't know why, but so anyway. And what we do with the software system is all of the buildings and all the employees in the buildings, not all but most, have access to the software. And then when issues arise in the building, if it's, you know, if we're out of toilet paper, if we have a leak, if we have, you know, whatever needs to be tended to, those individuals can go into Facility Dude. They can put the work order in. It gets into the system. I see it. I assign it to the appropriate individual. So, last month we had 182 work orders in the system, which is substantial. It was a busy month. Moving on to the financial report. For those of you that have been around, nothing really new here. You can look at the line items there. 87,510 is a line item that we talk about every meeting. You can see there's $173,000 worth of expense there, and a lot of that was ARPA-related expenditures that were going to be moved out of my budget, but now or not, they're going to remain. So I'm going to be over budget. Don't hold that against me, please. You can see substantial costs in fuel this year, with fuel prices going up. Even in miscellaneous supplies, $24,000 last year versus $31,000 this year. That's in part due to obviously the increased cost for a lot of the materials that we purchase. 56,400 is service repairs by outside contractors. You can see it was 132 last year, 143 this year. Maintenance contracts, we had a budget of 116. We ended at 117.8, so I'll have to look and see why I ran over a little bit there. But that's basically it. Ended the year at roughly 1.2 million versus just over 1 million the previous year. So any questions on that?
Chairman Wheeler?
Thank you. Just more of a comment. For the new members, you know, it's Wes and I have regular conversations almost daily because we try to live in frugality, you know, but we also don't ignore preventative maintenance. It costs more to fix it after it's broke than it does sometimes to do the PM on the way. But much like autopsies with the coroner's office, you really never know from year to year what's going to fly apart. So I hope the committee has a little bit of understanding with Wes's budget. While we do got to keep it around that number, there's just when you lose a HVAC unit or you lose something that controls all the doors at the jail, you got to fix it. You know, I mean, you just can't Band-Aid those things, you know.
Yeah.
So he is somewhat at the whims of the electrical and mechanical gods, if you will, and whatever happens. So
Yeah,
we
and
do
my
our
budget
best.
has $0 in it for any type of improvements, really.
Yeah.
I mean, my budget basically will take care of most of the repairs that are needed on a yearly basis. If there's any type of equipment replacement, if there's anything like that, it's not in the budget. There's nothing in there for that. So just know that moving forward. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that and Wes, we never know, inflation, gas prices, working around a budget with any change in that is always going to be an issue with every department in the county right now.
Exactly.
So we're keeping an eye on that as well.
Exactly. Thank you. The next item was the maintenance department overview, which we already did. That was a duplicate, and that was my error. So we already did that. That was the PowerPoint presentation that we went through. We'll now move into a building report. Here at 189, many of you are aware we just approved a 3-year contract with the Teamsters for the employees in my department. So that's always good news. Looking like we got that completed. Like I mentioned, working with Andy and Mr. Rowe on the tuck pointing of the old VAC. We do have about, I think it was $4,000 or $5,000 in expense. The roof hatch here at 189, you go up to the 5th floor or 6th floor, go into State's Attorney's office, you can get up to the roof. That hatch actually blew off about a month ago. I got a call from forget, maybe it was Dan that actually called me, said something's banging up there. So I had my guy come in, he looked at it, and it broke. It was just flipping and banging in the wind. So we're going to replace the roof hatch. We're also going to install so code required railing up there as well around the roof hatch. So that's they should be started on that today. At the courthouse, we already went through the basement project and its status. All the color selections have been made. So we got with our architect, we got with Lori Wolf, Chief Judge Cunnington, and Sandy. Went with a lot of earth tones that'll match, some of the other renovated areas like the bathrooms on the first floor. So it'll match and it'll be consistent with any of the repairs or improvements, if you will, that we've done over the last several years. Still working on getting Delta controls down here to all the new HVAC fixtures that are going to go in the basement. We need to get those added to our software. That's how I control all of the temperatures in the building. So with all the new systems down there, we're going to have that added to the Delta control software that I use over there currently. So there's going to be probably a substantial expense to modify the software and then to add all the components in the basement that I'm going to need to adequately adjust the HVAC system down there. Working with a company, actually two, on basement furniture. That's going to be in addition to the bid price. So your basement furniture is going to be for jury assembly. I wanted to get away from chairs. I wanted to get something similar in concept, if you will, and I think the chairman agrees, to what you see in airports, something with some seats, maybe even seats with charging capabilities for phones. I guess it's really going to boil down to the expense, and what that looks like. So when we get those numbers together, I'll share those with you. And then also the workstations that are going to go in the circuit clerk's area. There's 14 of them. So we're going to have to select what type of workstations we want there. I don't think we're going with cubicles, but something rather just open in a bullpen, if you will, type environment. So once I get those, I'll share those with you as well. The X-ray machine has been ordered. That's going to go, and we had to get that ordered quickly due to lead time issues. So that's been ordered for the basement security checkpoint. Had about $4,000 to $5,000 in expense on lighting for the dome. The old contactor went out. We had to replace it because the lights wouldn't turn off. So we had to replace that. So that's a decent size expense that we've had. Very large expense for the new members on the committee. Our chiller system at the annex went down. That's how we cool the building in the warm months. I don't remember the exact price. I guess my memory is, as I get older, it's not what it once was. Substantial. I want to say it was it $75,000, around $75,000. That is on site. It's sitting out there, so if you want to take a drive by, it looks beautiful. We'll get that hooked up here in short order, so that'll be ready for the springtime. Other than that, nothing out of the ordinary to report at the old jail. A lot of leaky faucets and showers. Jerome Combs, we've had many issues out there over the last month. We have a new 2-door cooler coming for the kitchen. The old cooler that they used in the kitchen, the doors have been opened and shut and slammed so many times that it's been caulked, it's been screwed, and basically the problem is any humidity that gets through the cracks on the unit freezes up it just freezes it up like a block of ice. So, and that's something that the corrections actually helped us out with the expense on that. So thanks a bunch to Chad and the sheriff for stepping up and helping me with the expense on that cooler. It was not cheap. About $18,000 is what it was. Batteries we've talked about at this committee. There's many batteries that we have to replace on our UPS systems out there. Those are on site. They've started the replacement of some of them at the old jail. Hopefully next week we'll get them out to the new jail to continue that. I want to say that was around $8,000 or $9,000 for all the batteries that we needed for the various aging UPS systems. We do need to purchase 2 hot water storage tanks. Basically what that is, it's a similar to your water heater in your home. These are huge, several 100-gallon hot water storage tanks. We lost one of them probably a year and a half ago. just due to age. It's 18 years old. We just lost another one 2 weeks ago, so I'm working with a vendor right now on pricing for these hot water storage tanks that are going to have to be replaced. Also for 2023, I've been working with corrections. The dishwasher, much like the building, is 18 or 19 years old. The dishwasher has seen better days. Parts are not available for it. It's a Hobart dishwasher. I had Hobart rep come out to see what we could do as far as parts for it that we need, and he just simply said, you can't get them. He's like, it's an 18, 19-year-old dishwasher.
Wow.
You need to buy a new one. So I'm working on that as an expense for 2023, starting to get some numbers together there. We've talked about the air conditioner in the public safety IT room. That's an older unit and frankly not the best unit, something that probably never should have been bought or installed. And it's something that we have set for replacement. It was $17,000. And we talked about this at last month's committee, but I'll reiterate it. The IT room out at public safety handles all the communications for all the public safety people in the county. So that's a very important room, and it's something that it just can't happen. The air conditioning cannot fail in that room. We do have backups, we do have contingency plans, but it's just something that needed to be replaced, and that was $17,000.
Wow.
So that's all I got. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Wes. Really appreciate that.
You're
Lots
welcome.
of stuff today.
Yes.
Anxious to get moving on all these big projects. Okay, we don't have old business, do we?
Not unless anybody else does.
We don't have any old business from another meeting. Okay, any new business that anyone would like to bring up? Any new business? Any other business? Mr. Hess.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
I was just going to call on you, Mr. Hess. I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Mr. Smith. Did I do it right? I was getting ready to use the other one. Okay, all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?